Hey, it's 103.5 The Beat, Miami's new number one for hip hop, R&B, and the Breakfast Club. I have the honor and the pleasure to speak with the current Florida Agriculture Commissioner, Miss Nikki Fried, and she's also candidate for governor. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic and so excited to be on your show today.
Thank you so much for taking out the time to do this. I have to start off by saying, I think your signature is like right underneath popularity, John Hancock, and then yours.
I will take that.
I see your signature everywhere, gas pumps all over the place. It's definitely an honor to put a face, a lovely face to the signature that I've seen so much.
Thank you.
Talking about that, I remember at one time your picture was at certain things. Who was the hater that stopped that? Because I thought it was pretty cool.
It was very cool. Everybody loved it. Who hated it? Ron DeSantis. He hated it. And so you know what he did? He made the legislature force me to take it down. They actually threatened to withhold all of my money until I took the pictures off and replaced them. That's how petty these guys are.
Well, listen, that's good reason to come for him alone. So, first of all, I want to talk about, for my listeners who don't understand what your current position is. Can you explain in a nutshell what it is?
Absolutely. So Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Florida is one of our 4 independent cabinet members. So I sit in the Florida cabinet. I oversee all of agriculture. But I also oversee all of our consumer services. So everything from front of the gas station pumps to fair rides to concealed weapons permitting, weights and measures. But I'm also a member of the cabinet, and I'm also a member of the clemency board. So we have about a $1.9 billion budget. Agriculture is second largest economic driver for the state. And so that's kind of nuts and bolts of it, but we have about 4,600 employees across the state, 19 divisions. So it's a pretty wide and spectrum of activities and responsibilities.
So when you talk about agriculture, I mean, you also mentioned other things, because I have seen your name with the concealed weapons as well. Yep. when I applied for mine. When you talk about agriculture in South Florida, there's more than just oranges, right?
Agriculture in Florida is huge. We are actually the specialty crop of the country. So we do everything. So our largest commodity actually is timber. So timber up in the Panhandle. So timber, we've got oranges, we've got tomatoes, strawberries, blueberries, obviously sugar, peppers, sweet corn. I mean, basically you name the specialty crop, it's grown here in the state of Florida. We also have a really, really robust aquaculture. So if you ever see, a lot of whether it's on land or offshore aquaculture industry. So we do it all. And don't forget cattle. That's also livestock. So we actually are the second largest in cattle production outside of Texas. So we're the first largest out of Texas. So we've got people always laugh to say, especially if you're living in like this, the city part of our state, but the second you get off of 75, Turnpike, 95, like it is all agriculture land.
Yes, I would agree. I also want to ask you, how did you decide to go into that lane? Do you have some history with agriculture, which, kind of like push you towards that?
So funny enough, yes and no. So not traditional agriculture. I came in, so it's agriculture and consumer services. So I was a 15-year practicing attorney before running for agriculture commissioner. So everything like we just talked about that I oversee, and again, from everything from also travel agents and just you name it. So I got to use my 15 years of being an advocate. I was a past public defender, fought for homeowners during the foreclosure crisis, foster care kids, for education, and for the expansion of medical marijuana in our state. And so the 15 years of being an advocate got me to the consumer services aspect of it. But my background in cannabis is where I like to kind of parlay into the agricultural side, because I do believe that the future of agriculture is without a doubt green.
Wow. Super cool. You are so cool. All right. So, I mean, thank you so much. I'm sure, the audience appreciates the background, and I'm sure there's a lot of things they've learned, just like I did today. So, I definitely wanted to do that. Let's get to the cool stuff. Why did you decide to run for governor?
I sat back in the last 3.5 years and have been as the only statewide elected Democrat. And I see a governor who's just trying to divide our state, talk hatred, make people feel marginalized, taking away people's rights to vote, taking away people's access to protest. I mean, the list of things go on and on and on. And I just couldn't sit back anymore. I just couldn't sit back and watch this guy not govern for the 22 million people. He's governing for the very small but vocal minority of our state. And that's not how government's supposed to work. My dad is a diehard Republican. My mom's a diehard Democrat. I was taught you come together, you talk about issues, and you try to find ways to work together.
That must have been a very interesting household.
Yeah. So as I'm doing, soup kitchens and Habitat for Humanity and civil rights parades in high school, my dad is sending me NRA t-shirts. So, a little bit different perspective on things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I must say that, I was surprised to see it, but then it made a lot of sense. You have a lot of notoriety here in the state of Florida, and and we do need some good and some strong candidates to to give Mr. DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, a run for his money. What are some of the things that you're looking to really jump out and let people know that you stand truly strong on?
I think the number one thing is the economy. Always is, always should be, that making sure that people have got opportunities to have that American dream, to make sure that if you're working, a job that you can pay for your rent and you can pay for your house, or you can pay for food. And right now, the economy of our state of Florida might be working great for the top 1%ers, but everybody else that are in our service industries, the people that are in our agriculture industry just aren't able to make it today. They're just really suffering. So looking at it from a totally different lens, totally different perspective. So the economy is always has to be number one priority. And that's everything, also underneath the economy, including the legalization of cannabis. That's something that's going to really help our economy. That's going to get green jobs. That's going to be a social justice reform, criminal justice reform, healthcare reform. Then the other thing is our education system. We're funding education 49th in the nation. What does that tell the future of our state and our country when we're not willing to fund our kids? And then the environment. We're seeing just not only buildings collapse and sea level rising happening, but just the inequity when it comes to our energy efficiencies. And, we know that in our Black communities, sometimes they're paying 200% more for their electric bills than those in other types of more, potentially affluent communities. And so I come into this with a different perspective, got different eyes, different lenses, and I see things differently, and I'm going to show up for everybody. And that's the difference between me and the current occupant of that office, is that I'm going to show up, I'm going to fight for the people, and I'm going to make sure that everybody's got an equal opportunity for success in our state.
Awesome. A little tough one for you here, but nothing you can't handle. You've been pushing for, the legalization of cannabis, and that's really cool, from when you first ran for office. That's been pretty tough on the Black community. So many people have been in prison because of that. So with things possibly taking a turn, because it looks like it will take a good turn, would there be opportunities there for people of color to be able to, have a stake in that field?
Absolutely. That's been one of my just most aggravated aspect of the current medical marijuana program in the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We created this program that, had, a limiting licensing structure. Everything was vertically integrated, and you had to be a 30-year nursery. And we know that 30 years ago, now it's looking at 37 years ago, people in the Black community did not have the same access to capital and the same access to loans from the USDA. There's been federal lawsuits on that.
Right.
And so, Black community has been left out. And look, as a past public defender, that's how I got onto this journey of cannabis to begin with. As a past public defender, I saw firsthand that, you know, 1 out of every 3 of my police reports, the odor of cannabis was detected, and that became the probable cause. And then it was my client's word versus the officer's word, and we all know how that ends up. And unfortunately, you know, Black and brown men are sitting in jail today, while white men are making millions upon millions of dollars. And so we need to make sure that we are creating an industry that recognizes that the war on drugs, who they hurt the most and which communities did it target, and that's the Black communities. And so we've got to look at it from that perspective and make sure that whenever we do legalize it, that not only are we giving opportunities for, you know, Black community members to get involved in this green industry, become lucrative, because it is, and also an opportunity to, again, to reform our criminal justice system, and to make sure that we are taking those resources that are coming in once it's taxable, and we're reinvesting them into the Black communities who have been hurt by this war on drugs. So in a Fried administration, you'll see that the cannabis program will look a lot like my hemp program. When I legalized hemp in the state, I couldn't fix the medical program because that's underneath the governor and Department of Health. Right. But I was able to create a hemp program open licensing, little to no fees for the application process. If you want to cultivate. If you want to manufacture. If you want to be retail, whatever it is, I just want to put it out into the ethos and let people go in. And that's what I would see in a full legalization in our state.
Yeah, I've seen the effects of that as well, so I could attest to that, and thank you so much. So what would you be most excited about? You know, because we already spoke about, you know, the economy is very important, but what would you be like really excited about, you know, as governor of the state of Florida? Like, you know, besides the economy, what is like really something near and dear to you that you'd like to really see get pushed through if you have that opportunity to be governor?
I mean, look, legalization is near and dear to my heart at this point. That's how I got here. You know, I decided to run in 2018 because I got frustrated with the federal system. I got very frustrated with the fact that, you know, we have 34 states at the time that were legalized, and we couldn't get the feds to move off their butts on any of this. And we were sitting around at conferences, and people in the industry was like, why do we keep getting our butts handed to us in Washington, D.C.? And so we came to the conclusion that's because people from the industry aren't running for office, that truly understand what reform looks like, why it's so important to get there. So while that is not my number one priority, my number one priority is the economy, expansion of Medicaid, fixing our education system, fixing our environment. That legalization is kind of one of those pet projects that I know could do so good for so many people. And one of those that I can walk away being like, that was really cool. I legalized weed in the state of Florida, and that's a legacy that I can live on.
I think we'd have to put your picture back up everywhere. Once you get that. This one, you know, just due to what's happening right now in the world, this next question I have, I know I've been hearing it nonstop about guns and guns and guns. I'm even going to jump out there and say, you know, listen, I'm on the fence with it myself as a gun owner, you know, of whether it's gun control or other things that, you know, we can do. Or maybe, you know, there is nothing we can really, really do, you know, if a person just is off their meds and decides to do something, you know, crazy. But, you know, just with this topic really looming around so much, with, of course, with a lot of reason, all the unfortunate things that have been happening lately. What's your take on it, on gun control?
You know, it's, you know, and I too, I'm a gun owner. As you heard, my dad was pushing the NRA back when I was in high school. Never did that. I kicked the NRA actually out of my office as Commissioner of Agriculture. But I'm a gun owner. I have a concealed weapons permit. I'm an attorney, so I have sworn an oath not only as commissioner but as an attorney to protect and defend the Constitution, which is partly the Second Amendment. But we also need to realize that society has changed significantly in the last, 50 years, 100 years, and when it comes to access to guns and the types of guns that are out there. And I think that we have to start putting partisan differences aside and start coming together and find that common ground. Nobody wants to send their kids to school and them not to come home. No one wants to see their grandmother go into a food store in a Black community and be shot up. I think we all can kind of agree to that. And the question is, now what? What are some things, and I always ask this question, what are some things what laws could have been put in place to have prevented buffalo or Uvalde, and would they have worked? And so I always kind of come from that perspective. And I think that part of it is, yeah, there are definitely things that can be done. Increasing the age of purchasing, making sure that everybody's got universal background checks, making sure that we are looking at laws on how to safely, store our guns. But it's also changing the hearts and the minds of the people, kind of like what we used to do with tobacco. Everybody used to think it was cool to smoke tobacco, and everybody had, chain smoked, and it was on Camel commercials and whatnot. And we really, as a society, and granted, the tobacco industry was forced to do this, but put money to change the conversation. And so now you talk to the younger generation, granted they're all vaping now, but you change the conversation and you talk to this younger generation and no one's smoking cigarettes. And I think that we have to start having that frank conversation in our communities. And we got to look at ways to reduce gun violence in minority communities, and the recognition too that, we talk about these mass shootings, but I'm also not naive to know that every single day in our Black communities, kids are getting killed on the streets every single day. And no one's talking about those. Remember, the only way people talk about it is when the white schools get shot up. I'm fully aware of that conversation. And I think that there needs to start being a responsibility that we can't let this conversation go. We're losing too much of our youth. We're losing too many innocent lives out there. And it's time to start putting down, those walls and really working together to come up with some ideas, whether it's putting money into the, truth commercials and showing people who've lost loved ones, or it's, really taking down the NRA, because the NRA, unfortunately, is spending too much money and influence into our elected officials, mostly in the Senate and the Congress, that they're not even willing to have a conversation. And that's not what democracy is supposed to be about. And that's certainly not how society is supposed to work. If there's a problem, we should be coming together and fixing it.
I must say, I like you, Commissioner.
Thanks.
I've interviewed quite a bit of politicians in my time, and I really, really like your responses there. Really, really,
thanks.
It really touched me, and it really, really was good. Really was good.
Thank you.
Listen, I wish you the best. I really do.
Thank you, and I appreciate what you do too. You got a significant voice in the community and a lot of influence, and just keep it real. That's what, hold us elected officials accountable. I think that's really what, shows like yours do, is hold us all accountable, make sure that, we're coming back. We're not just showing up during election time, that you hold us accountable afterwards, that, these words are not just mere words, that they're result in actions. And certainly to a lot of your listeners and those in the Black community, as a white elected, I get my responsibility. I understand that it's no longer up to those in the Black electeds and members of the NAACP and Urban League to be carrying the water. It is up to us, in the white community, to start standing up and realize and recognize the history, which I know that there's some electeds that would like to whitewash that, but understand the history and be willing to fight for everybody. And so I recognize that. And I also recognize this too, that, I got elected in 2018 by 6,753 votes. And I know that specifically in the Black community, everybody put their hard equity and sweat to get Andrew Gillum elected. And because of those efforts, I was the beneficiary of it. And so I recognize that. And every day that I wake up, I try to figure out ways to hold true to who got me here and to really, truly be making a difference.
You are awesome. Could you please take a few seconds and let everybody know how they can support you, how they can follow you, how they can become a part of your team and get the word out?
Yep. So very easy. It's my name. So it's Nikki Fried, NIKKIFRIED is the website. So spelled like fried, but it's pronounced Fried. And so go onto the website, and on there is all of our other social media tags, as well as if you want to volunteer. There's a place to volunteer. If you're willing to donate some cash on that site, we have a $4.20 button. So if you want to go on and give $4.20 for those in the cannabis space, what that's all about.
Hey.
And so it's just really, it's all hands on deck on this one. And there's lots of opportunities to get involved, spread the message, spread the word. But really, this is one of those elections that I know everybody hears all the time, the most important election of our lifetimes, but democracy is truly on the ballot this year. And hopefully everybody gets informed, gets engaged, gets mobilized, and goes vote.
Thank you once again, Commissioner Fried, for your time, your information. You're super awesome. And listen, I really, really wish you the best in this upcoming gubernatorial race, okay?
I appreciate you. Have a great afternoon.
Have a safe flight. Have fun out there.
Thanks.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.